Hi, Mac.
Hey, how's it going?
You're always not sitting right. Okay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. You read some comics today, huh?
We did, yes. Always fun to get some new comics on a Wednesday, and especially now that we are doing 4 every week. Just feels like there's so much new content. It's exciting. It feels, we have stuff to do again.
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure how many comics we should do. So then initially I was like, yeah, we'll just do 3, and then there was just so many good looking titles that I said, nope, we're doing 4 now.
Yeah, it always felt like there was a fourth or sometimes even a fifth one that I was just like, oh, I wish we were doing that one too.
Yeah. So I'm gonna click a tab and hope that a title comes up. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
This is the big one, huh? Part 1 of 22. I feel like it's like a Lego. You know how like when you get one of those big Lego sets and you open it up and you're like, bag 1 of 27, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, hopefully this issue wasn't missing any screws or extra pieces or anything.
Right.
It was surprisingly long. I don't know about you, but when I opened this up and I saw that it was 66 pages, that took me back a little bit.
It wasn't when I saw the price. It's
$7. Yeah, that does make sense. It feels like we just got out of Empire and now we are jumping into the next crossover. Although this one is a little bit different because it's really just the mutants, right? So it is still contained. It's not that big, Empire type scope, but it is another big event, as you said, part 1 of 22. This one being a huge issue. So yeah, 10 of Swords getting into full swing now. What did you think about this one?
So we talked before about how like I was getting confused as to what was happening, but this issue, for being as long as it was, and with a lot of reading, like just prose for a comic book, at first I was like, uh-oh, what's happening? Because the beginning's a little confusing, and which might be fine in a normal title, but because we've had sort of understanding issues with the X-Men universe, I was like, I'm gonna have no idea. But I like how they actually kind of simplified it at some point, and the prose actually helped, and some of the graphs actually helped explain, like in my not so very smart brain, what was happening. And then by the end, I think it turned into a great story, especially if you love Apocalypse. And so yeah, I would almost start here and forget the prelude titles, because I feel like the prelude titles kind of made it unnecessarily complicated. And in this one, this is really a good jumping on point.
Yeah, you pretty much summed up everything that I thought. It's funny the way you said that too, and I kind of said the same thing, but in a different way in my full review, which you can see right now on laughingplace.com. I felt the same way. I read through the first, 10, 15, 20 pages, and I felt like, this is a lot. It's too complicated. It's too complex. There's too much going on. And then at a certain point, it just kind of clicked for me and simplified. And to me, I felt like I simplified the way I was reading it. I wasn't getting, I gave up on worrying about all the details, like who this character is and what their abilities are, and just forget about all that stuff. Just focus on the story and let it take you on the ride that it is, because it can get overwhelming if you worry about every little detail. So I did end up enjoying the back half of this, and I would have to go through it again. I don't know if the comic itself was simpler in the second half, or if it was that I changed the way I was reading the story. But yeah, I did enjoy it, and I do love Apocalypse as a character. I really like seeing him in this role, especially briefly seeing him vulnerable, which is not something you see from Apocalypse. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious to see where this goes. I just hope it kind of stays simple.
Yeah, well, and I don't mind it building on complexity when I have a starting point. So I don't want it to go too much out of the Ten of Swords world that I'm now understanding. The problem with the mutants for so long has always been there's just too many of them.
Yeah.
And Wanda tried to take care of that for us, but then Krakoa kind of did it. So I just, I liked how there were some classic X-Men that I think we all knew. So it wasn't, you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out, what Beast is about, or Havoc, or Cyclops and Jean Grey and the young Cable that's in it. I think it, so I feel like now they have a starting point. I'm curious to see if I'm able to still stay with it as it moves ahead.
Yeah, one other little issue I have with the mutant corner of the Marvel Comics universe, though, is the lack of, and I know this goes for all comics in general, but the lack of consequences is even greater here. Like, there's a character they were attacked, and this isn't really spoiling. We saw it in one of the preludes too. They were attacked, and one of the characters is dying, and they bring him in. They say, "Oh no, he's dying," and I'm like, "Well, shouldn't the response just be, all right, well, go prep the resurrection pods? Like, that's it.
Right.
We let him die. We'll fix it. It's fine." I don't know. It just feels like nothing feels that important at this point. But,
well, and I think at some point they're going to need to address that, right? Like, you can't have comic books where everyone can get resurrected all the time. I mean, that just, I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, I was pleasantly surprised.
Maybe Ten of Swords results in the destruction of Krakoa after all. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where everything goes. But moving ahead to a book that is explicitly about not having consequences and then having consequences.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, that transitioned pretty well. That's really the theme of this issue. The Immortal She-Hulk #1, and this one comes right out of Empire. She-Hulk was a huge character in that. One of the big surprising, kind of surprising moments, at least, was her quote unquote death. I enjoyed this issue. I really liked the way that they went through the history of the character, and I think this is actually a good starting point. Like you said, with Ten of Swords, if you want to start reading She-Hulk, which a lot of people are going to want to do with the She-Hulk series coming to Disney Plus eventually, I think this is a good one to pick up because it really goes back to the beginning of the character and takes you through her story a little bit. So, yeah, I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, She-Hulk was an interesting character for me because, I heard of her, she was sort of in the 80s, was iconic. I wasn't reading comics, but, she was always in the trading packs. Like, you knew who she was. And then every time I've read Marvel Comics, like, she never had her own title. So she would pop up here and there. And then, it was like, sometimes she was smart, sometimes she was less smart, sometimes, she was always green, sometimes she was sometimes green. I think this it almost kind of explained her journey very succinctly and accessibly, while also setting up the consequences for the the title itself moving forward.
So. Yeah, and this, like you kind of alluded to, this one is just about, she's died 3 times, right? So this takes you through the deaths of She-Hulk over the course of her comic history. And whenever I think of a character that dies and comes back, I immediately think of Wolverine. And I really like that they brought him in and got his perspective or his advice for Jennifer Walters in this story. So that was cool. I like that they kind of brought,
especially since he's coming from a mutant perspective now with Krakoa,
right?
Where that's really central to everything going on with them. That it's not a tie-in to the whole X-Men universe really, but knowing what's going on over there, I think adds a layer to this title.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool to see her post-death, pre-resurrection experience in a couple of different instances. So yeah, I enjoyed this one as a whole. It was close to being my pick of the week.
Interesting. So speaking of smashing.
Yeah, Juggernaut #1. Exciting new series. It's fun to see characters who don't normally have their own series, get their own series now. I've always liked Juggernaut a lot as a character. It gets to the point where everybody expects the big villain to be this like super genius with a plan that stretches out, always 2 moves ahead. Whereas Juggernaut is just a big guy who can run through walls. So I've always liked him as a character. And this first issue of the series is as simple as the character itself, which I think was awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It is my runner-up for my pick of the week. you know, it's not, as I said, you know, it's nice to see him vulnerable. It's nice to see a depowered Juggernaut.
Yeah.
But still, you still see the strength of his resolve. You know, you see the Juggernaut personality without the Juggernaut powers, which is kind of cool. And then, you know, setting up a character journey for him. You know, there was a Rhino story a few years back where it was like, you know, Rhino trying to, you know, looking really into his story. And I kind of felt like this is in the same vein, but with Juggernaut. And this is, you know, this is on one of those titles that even if we're not reviewing it, I'm going to read it. And, you know, complicated character, you know, long history of Xavier and all that stuff. But this book kind of took it to the basics that, you know, Juggernaut has a gem that powers him and blast through things. Like, you know, there's not a whole lot of backstory needed to figure out what Juggernaut's about here.
Yeah, I read this one right after reading Ten of Swords, and it was so refreshing to just have it be like, you know, here's the story, here's the character, this is what's happening, and it was nice and simple. I also just really like the setup that he's not big villain Juggernaut anymore. He's got a job, and that job is working with damage control to knock down, you know, buildings that they need to demolish, which is awesome. It's like a perfect sitcom setup for this character. I love it.
Yeah, it makes me yearn for that damage control series we never got.
Yeah.
But then my pick of the week.
Yeah, and I think we agree on it
too, because this is the last book. Dr. Doom #7. And don't let the number fool you. This is a good jumping on point too. I know Marvel has been retitling everything, renumbering things anytime there's like a new storyline. But you can jump into Dr. Doom here and without much worry.
Yeah, if you're familiar at all with who the character is, you're good. That's all you need. You know, he's a villain. He's the ruler of Latveria. That's pretty much all you need to know. And yeah, this was not what I expected. I have been reading this Dr. Doom series, and this one, I mean, it's still a continuation of the story, but it's so wildly fun. When in the first couple pages, Dr. Doom rolls up on a bear, and it's just like, I'm back. Like that was amazing. I actually I had to put the comic down. I just couldn't stop laughing after that.
My friend Brian said that it is one of his favorite comic panels of all time.
Oh yeah, I screenshotted that. It's going on a background somewhere for sure. Yeah, it's just incredibly fun. It's just Doom testing his inner circle to, you know, see who's loyal to him, and somebody is not so lucky, as you could guess, is always the case with Dr. Doom. Just so funny. Such a great character. It's amazing that, like I said, this was one of the funniest comics I've read in a while, and yet he's such a serious, like, grounded character, even with his, you know, mystical abilities and stuff like that. You know, he's a dictator. He's a politician. Right. So, like, it's a real world kind of character, and you can kind of just play to all these different types of stories.
Yeah, what's interesting to me was how he interacted with each member of his cabal, or whatever you want to call it, you know, his advisors differently. So, you know, there's the one that he knows is not loyal. There's the one, you know, that, you know, would do anything. There's the one that, you know, is basic, you know, they all start with the same thing of like, you know, I'm loyal, whatever. But then it's not like it's, you know, a test of will that's the same for everybody. Like, he knows each individual person and addresses the way he deals with them specifically to them. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and just the fact that it's pretty clear that, like, he knows exactly what he has to do before he even tests everyone. He just, you know, just goes in for this one question before they can even answer. And it's amazing that comes across in a comic panel, you know, like it's really just profile and then 2 word bubbles, but you get that just like the confidence of Dr. Doom. He knows exactly what's happening. So yeah, just really liked everything about this first.
It's funny. I think we agree quite often about our picks of the week. So
we do, yeah.
And we don't discuss it. We don't like, we're not like one of those ESPN embrace debate shows. We just pick them as we see them. Moving on from comics to the wonderful world of the wonderful world. Let me try that again. Of Disney Plus.
Yeah, so we had a few pieces of big news over the past week. Some of it actually just a couple hours ago, but a few days ago now, we learned who was going to be playing She-Hulk in that Disney Plus series that I talked about a little bit earlier. And again, Tatiana Maslany. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. She has been a star in a few different shows and films, and very popular actress. I've only seen her in Parks and Rec personally, and she was great in that in the couple episodes she was in. So I'm excited. I honestly, I was ready for just any sort of news for that show. Just like, move forward with it, And I do think this is a great casting. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so I'm just like trying to very fast see if I've seen her in anything.
This has sparked my interest in Orphan Black. I'm going to have to pick that up now.
Yeah, I've heard good things, but haven't watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope, haven't seen her in anything, but she's good. So, I don't know. This is the thing I was most excited about regarding Disney Plus this week. The new trailer for WandaVision.
Yeah, debuted, what was that, Sunday night during the Emmys?
Yeah, during the Emmys. Which what blows my mind is that the Emmys had like 6 million viewers, and this trailer has had like way over 50 million views already.
I mean, that's not all that surprising. I personally have probably watched it about 50 times. So, and that a big part of that was because I have a more focused breakdown of the trailer, which you can also see on laughingplace.com right now. This one caught me by surprise, by the way. I honestly had completely just zoned out on Sunday, football and whatever else is going on. But all of a sudden, WandaVision trailer drops and focus right back on Marvel. So yeah, I was very excited to see this. This looks like such a different series, and we expected that, but this trailer really accentuates how different this show is going to be.
Yeah, I remember what was it, Comic-Con, when they announced like the initial slate of not the we knew Falcon, Winter Soldier, we knew Loki, and we knew I think those were the two we knew. Mm-hmm. But then they showed the sort of, and we knew they were gonna do it, or it's heavily rumored that they were doing a WandaVision series. But then when they put the words together and made it, and they had this 50s vibe, and they introduced the nosy neighbor and everything. It was like, this is not just a Marvel movie on Disney Plus. This is something completely different, and I'm totally stoked about it. Can't wait. I'm glad it's coming in December. Kind of leapfrog Captain and the Winter Soldier. No, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, you're right. America and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't wait. You did a great breakdown, so check that out. I don't want to get too into the weeds with this one, but can't wait. Probably coming in December, I think.
I would think so. Yeah. I just love that the multiverse kind of vibes that this has going on. I'm so excited to see where this goes.
So, speaking, we'll stay on the Disney Plus bandwagon. Where we got some news about Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, they set 4 different directors for the show. 2 of which we had heard a couple weeks ago. The directors of the Bad Boys for Life, the most recent Bad Boys movie, which to me is great action comedy, fits perfectly in with the MCU. And then a couple other names that, again, I would absolutely butcher if I tried to pronounce. But so, again, just exciting to see that they are moving forward. We're getting news on these series. I am just so excited to see these shows brought to Disney Plus, especially Ms. Marvel, with Kamala being a big part of the Marvel's Avengers game. I'm just excited for her to get more attention and step into the spotlight again.
Yeah, I've grown to love her. At first, I don't think they did her any service when she first launched, and they're like, they were so focused on the Muslim American angle, which is obviously a big part of her character, but it was like, like I felt like what really makes her fun was kind of lost in that, and that's essentially makes her the fangirl who wants to help, but as her family is concerned, kind of like a different take on the young superhero, which we've seen. So, I love her in the comics. I love her in the Avengers game, and I can't wait to see her on the small screen or whatever screen she ends up being on.
Yeah, she's great because she's us. She's that superhero nerd that is obsessed with all the Marvel stuff happening. So yeah, it's just nice to have another relatable character.
Also, where she's represented well is in Marvel's Future Avengers, which is on Disney Plus. It's the Japanese series.
Yeah, that's right.
So on the movie side, we had some release date shifts. So Black Widow is basically going to end up being delayed a whole year.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And then it is taking the Eternal spot. Then Shang-Chi is leapfrogging Eternals and is being released in July. And then Eternals will be released now in November.
Which I thought that jump was interesting. I'm curious to know why those two switched, if it's a storytelling thing or if it was just a strategic.
I have a theory.
What's that?
I have a theory that WandaVision leads into Multiverse of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore season 2 of WandaVision would leap out of that.
Okay.
Or you wouldn't want to wait too long for that to come back.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we know that Black Widow is going to have some sort of connection to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so that's going to have a long delay as well. So yeah, that makes sense. There's a storytelling perspective here that is going to impact how they shift these things around.
Yeah, and I think there's a sort of question I think a lot myself have and others have is how much are they going to let those storytelling considerations impact Disney Plus and movies. Right. And I think if Kevin Feige has a plan, I think he's earned the right to kind of push back a little bit, especially if they're able to find ways like pushing WandaVision. I don't want to say push it forward, but keep it where it was, and kind of leapfrog some other things. Then you have Loki, which I think is probably a little less associated directly with an upcoming film, at least in the near term.
Right.
So I'm just ready for something.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's like everyone talked about Marvel fatigue, Star Wars fatigue, and it's like at this point, I think any fatigue has been run out, and people are just ready to have some fun.
Yeah, definitely. The Marvel fatigue is not something I ever suffered from anyway, but yeah, I'm always definitely very ready for some more now. And so next we have, there were some panels announced, some Marvel panels announced for a couple of different conventions. We have the New York Comic-Con Metaverse Combined Convention, and then as well as the Hasbro PulseCon, which the latter is weekend starting Friday. I believe all the Marvel panels are on this Friday. So we'll, of course, have some coverage of that for you to check out.
So that's scheduled to end at 5 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. So we'll go live once the whole event's over. Talk about the Star Wars and Marvel stuff that comes out. You will actually be at Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
So me and Mike from the Star Wars team. So follow us along all day as we try and fill Mac's shoes because he's going to be scared out of his mind at Busch Gardens Hollowscream.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a different day for me, for sure.
So I'm struggling how to talk about this one because I don't want to spoil a comic that came out this week.
Yeah, this made a lot more sense after today, is what I'll say. Um, although I'm still a little unsure of how it's going to play out. Are the titles meaning things literally? Is it more of a figurative sword? I'm not sure how it's really working. But definitely interesting. It's again, kind of coming out of Empire, right? I mean, there were some issues with Sword at the end of Empire, and it looks like things might come together after Ten of Swords. Who knows? I'm not really sure how this is going to play out, but definitely interesting. I'm curious to see how they come together.
Yep, and done by Al Ewing, who we've talked about lately with Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a rising, I don't want to say rising star, he's been around for a while, but
he's just a star.
Powerful creator at Marvel. Then finally, back to television, or some semblance of television. We got a trailer for Ostrom.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm excited for any Marvel content that's coming out. This kind of seems like it's barely a Marvel show. I think it's just kind of, these characters are from Marvel, but here is, this show that's not connected. It's completely different. It's just based on that character. The trailer makes it look like, and Hulu has been cranking out horror series lately, and this fits a lot with that trend. So I am excited for it. This is kind of the show that I watch a lot of, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm curious what your thoughts are after this trailer.
I think, I'm not a huge horror person, and I'm kind of relieved that it's not like totally, like, I don't have to pretend it's part of the MCU, and I can maybe wait to read your review to determine if I actually want to watch it. Because I'm just really not a horror fan. I'm not a fan of horror comics. I'm not, just a personality thing. It's not based on quality. So, yeah, I remember when these, originally it was this and Ghost Rider were now together.
Right.
This one actually happened, but it definitely feels like there's no Marvel logo. It's the only way it's Marvel is at the bottom of the press release. It says produced by Marvel Television. So, I guess, I feel like WandaVision has kind of stolen its Marvel thunder. So now it just needs to rely on being a good show on itself. And, I'll still be counting the days till December. So.
Sure. Yeah, I'm definitely more excited for WandaVision. No question about that. Anytime you tell me something is definitely connected to the MCU versus something that is kind of loosely based on the material that the MCU is based off of.
To me, it's not just that it needs to be connected, but that, Kevin Feige and his team have had a hand in it. Would make me feel better. And knowing that they didn't in this just makes it seem like, okay, now it needs to prove itself. Whereas I will trust anything Kevin Feige has produced. This I need to see, I'll need to see. I mean, it could be a great show. And I believe we'll have our review up on October 9th. So, I'll read that, and if it's good, I'll watch it. If it's fair, I probably won't. I'm going
to completely downplay the horror in it and just have you just to trick you into watching it. No, I think it does look good after this trailer. I'm looking forward to checking it out, and yeah, like Benji said, my review will be up on October 9th, so you can check it out and determine if it is something you wanna watch or.
Because I enjoyed going to see New Mutants, and that's not connected to anything, but
right.
I just had a good time seeing it. So, it doesn't need to be connected. It just, because everything the MCU has done has been great, or at least good. It just comes in with a built-in trust factor that some of these other ancillary products just don't.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's it. But we do have, there's actually been Marvel news breaking. There's some new action figures coming out that we'll have a post up shortly. And then we'll be back Friday with all the HasCon stuff. And then
I'm excited to see
it. Tonight you can watch Guardians of the Galaxy. If for some reason
tonight,
on the world of Disney.
Yeah, and then we do have Laughing Place Movie Club with some Marvel content in the future, as well as more of the X-Men movies make their way to Disney Plus. So keep an eye out for that too.
Yeah, we got. Just X2 shows up on October 9th, so I believe the Monday after that, we will be doing a movie club, and I'd expect as we get closer to WandaVision, and there's a Hellstrom panel at Metaverse, so things are picking up.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot going on.
Well, thanks so much, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone for watching.
Have a great day.